Hello everyone, welcome to the fifth episode of the parallax scrolling effect. I hope you enjoyed the last previous tutorials on scrolling and parallax effects. Today what we're going to show is basically trying to show this here. So if you notice this box with the blue border, it's going to scroll, when we scroll up and down, it's going to go with a different scroll amount or positioned differently as compared to the relative positions that here. So if I scroll down here, you'll see that this guy actually moves with a different speed here, as you can see. So if I scroll down, see there is like this little sort of animation that happens based on the scroll amount. So today we're going to go ahead and build that. So as always, I'm going to go to kotus.com, front end and Kotus online editor. Here I'm going to put a main, and within the main I'm going to put two sections, so section 1 and section 2. And by the way, we're not building something sophisticated today. We're just going to show you the technique on how to achieve that effect, and hopefully in the next tutorial we're going to build a full website with parallax effect. All right, so now I have two sections in my HTML, and then I will put a div with the class card in the first one, and I'll put the same in the second one as well. Um, let's see if I can get some lorem ipsum. Let's just put some random. Let's see. Code, Visual Studio Code. Um, I usually use this for creating some sort of a lorem ipsum text. So if I type lorem here, it actually gives me some lorem ipsum text in Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to paste it one here and then one in the other card. And then in the CSS, I'm going to style my card. So let's give it a border of 10 pixels solid and blue violet as color. Then I want to make sure I give it a padding. Let's put 10 pixel. I don't like the font, so I'll go to Google Fonts. In Google, I search Google Fonts, and then here I take a font that looks all right to me. So let's take this Montserrat, uh, opening up this panel down here, and then what we can do is in the clicking on import, I'll take the import, going back to my project, and then here in my CSS I can paste this, and also it says that add this font family to the place where you want your font to be applied. So I will put it in the body so that everything in the page will have that font, as you can see. Now, the next thing I want to do, since we put the cards in sections, I'm gonna style the section, making sure that the position is relative, and maybe give it a height of 100 VH, which means the full height of the window. Next thing I want to do, I would like to give it a border bottom of 2 pixels solid, maybe CCC, so that we can see the boundaries. Now, next thing I want to do is put a bigger top here, maybe like 10. Uh, let's just change this position to be absolute. You need to really set the positions of the elements that you want to scroll with a different pace to position. And then I'll put the top to be maybe 20%, as you can see, 20%, and give it a width of maybe 50%, so it's half, and then I will just give it a left of 30%, right? To position it over here, maybe even 20%. It really depends on what type of design you want to do. Right now, I randomly just put some numbers to adjust it in its parents, right? So we have the first card, and then we have the second card, right? For now, I'm going to give the maybe increasing the font size to 20 pixel. So now we have a better thing to see. And now let's jump into the actual scroll interaction. What we need to do is, obviously I have to have a reference to the cards in my JavaScript. So document query selector all, and then the ones with class card. And then I add an event listener to my window, add event listener scroll, and I'm going to use ES6 arrow functions instead of just function. So now what I can do is I would usually put the scroll window.scroll y amount to the scroll top. So scroll y amount is when you're scrolling the amount of the scroll that had happened. And I put it over here. Now the trick is that I want to make sure that the element that I want to see the different pace of scrolling on is within the viewport. And the way I can do it is simply just by, for now, I'm just simply checking for if scroll top plus window dot inner height is more than my elements, which is, you know, I have to loop over the cards. Usually I have one card, but now we have two cards. So what I need to do is first, let's just dismiss this for now. I'm just going to do cards for each and then card. And then here within this, now that I have access to each of the cards using cards for each, I can check this property here, right? So if scroll top plus window.inner height, so scroll top, which is at the top of the window at any given amount of scroll, plus window.inner height, which is the height of the window, is more than card.offset top, which means that if it's more than the top of the window here, so for example, this case doesn't apply for the second one in the page um, because it's not in the viewport. So if this applies, I want to I want to increase. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say card.style.transform, and I'm going to use string literals in ES6, which is two apostrophes, and then I play with translate y because I want to move my element with a different pace on y axis so I can utilize the transform on the style of that element. And then here inside I can use the dollar sign, open bracket, close bracket, and also the scale is in pixels. Now I can just define and say, okay, I want to have a variable called amount or scroll amount. Initially I put it to 0, but then here what I do is that every time this applies, I want to increase that amount by 1, right? And then I'll put it here. So scroll amount, right? So now what is happening is that you can see exactly what is happening. Let me give a background, different background to the sections. So um, section nth child 1. So the first section, I'll put a background of maybe CCC, making sure that my card has a background of FFF, which is white. All right, so now we can kind of distinguish the first section to the second section. So now you'll see that if I start scrolling down based on this formula that we wrote, this guy will start actually going down because we are adding to the scroll amount every time we are scrolling and we are translating in y-axis. So you can see that it's actually going down. So, and this one as well. So what we need to do is to change this to minus minus because what we want is when we scroll down, we want the element to go up, right? So now you'll see that if you take a look at the second one, you'll see that it actually goes the other direction. Let me just fix this, minus minus. So now if I save, now you will see that the scroll amount is not that much visible. So what I usually do is I just multiply it by 2. For example, you can really play with this value. So now if I scroll down, let me see if I have written everything correct. So I want the scroll amount to go down, and then I want it to be, of course, this is correct. So now let's see what happens. So let me see if there is any error in the JavaScript section that I am missing. Yes, it says unexpected token if. So let's see what's the problem. Obviously, I have to add this in. All right, so now if I try to scroll up, you will see that this element actually scrolls up with a very fast pace, right? Because I multiplied the scroll amount by 2. And now if I scroll down again, the direction of the movement doesn't change because I just decrease the scroll amount by one by minus 1 and then multiply it by 2 and then say translate y. Now, so you got the problem, right? The problem is that this I'm now scrolling down, so this guy is going up. Now if I scroll up, it will still go up. The reason is that we don't change the direction. How we can fix it is pretty simple. What I can do is define a variable, let um, old scroll amount. I'll set it to 0. And this is a variable or a flag that I will set to check what direction I'm scrolling. Am I scrolling down or am I scrolling up? So if the current position is more than the old scroll amount, it means that I'm scrolling down. Otherwise, it means that I'm scrolling up. So what I can do here inside this if, I can check if scroll top, which is my current scroll amount, is more than old scroll amount, which when I scroll it is true because the old scroll amount is 0. So if this applies, go ahead and decrease the amount of scroll so that we translate the element on the y-axis upwards. Otherwise, else if scroll top less than old scroll amount, then I want to actually increase the scroll amount by 1, right? Because then we're going down. So when we scroll up, we want the element to go down, right? And then ultimately, here in the scroll event listener, after this, I can just set the old scroll amount to the scroll top, right? So that every time we're scrolling down, it kind of has the track over the amount of scroll that we had. Now, if you notice, if I scroll down, specifically look at the second one, I'm scrolling down right now. Now, as soon as I start scrolling up, it goes back in. And you can easily see that these two are moving at separate paces based on the amount of scroll. And this effect only happens when the scroll top plus window.inner height, so scroll top plus the height of the window is more than the scroll top, right? So you can see that here you go, it scrolls faster, and you can control the speed or the amount of scroll on this. So right now it multiplies by 2. So if I multiply it by something less than 2, you'll see that the amount of scroll is going to be slower, right? Just like that. And maybe even less, it's going to be the same. It's going to go slower and slower and slower. So if I multiply it by 0.2, you'll see that the amount of scroll will be really, really slow, as if this element is going at the same, speed as the other elements in the page, right? So now I increased it, you can see that it's going a little bit faster. And depending on what scroll that I'm doing, up and down, it kind of adjusts itself and goes either up and down. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is build a full-fledged website with all these parallax effects that we talked about today. So stay tuned. I would like to thank you for sort of following up on that tool that I put in the community section and give your suggestions and ideas. Apparently, so far, it seems like you guys are interested in how to basically start designing a website and how to transform and code it. So stay tuned. We're gonna kickstart that series as well. But one more thing, we are not finished yet with our um, we are not finished with our the parallax effect. Sorry, not the parallax, but the what is it called? The carousel effect. So there are one or two sections on the carousel. By the way, every now and then I develop a prototype and I put it in the community section. If you guys are interested to have a tutorial on them, please comment down there and say I would like to have a tutorial on that. And without anything more to say, I wish you a great day and night, and see you next time.